Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Voss, Editor-in-Chief of Disobedient Media. I'm so happy to be here with Suzie Dawson, journalist, activist, and sorry, Suzie, I'm so tired today. You just introduce us. I'm done. Leader of the Internet Party of New Zealand. But as you can tell, guys, I've had 2 hours sleep the last couple of nights, so forgive me.
You can call me editor of a wide range of blog platforms that usually only have me writing on them.
Queen of Steam It. How about that?
Yeah, chief Steam It recruiter.
I like it.
I was successfully recruited, I think, about 60 people this week, which I think is pretty good.
It's amazing.
Especially since Caitlin is one of them who's using the platform, and she was shared by WikiLeaks today, which was awesome, really awesome. You guys will actually see Steam It domain on WikiLeaks timeline.
I noticed.
Martin Bomber Bradbury, who's a major media figure in New Zealand, editor-in-chief of the daily blog.co.nz, is also joining as we speak. Lee Camp has joined and is posting his content. And of course, I got Elizabeth to join as well, which has been really fantastic. And I'm blogging also on Steam It. So if you guys don't have a Steam It account, get one, check it out. If you don't know how, just drop me a DM on Twitter, and I've got a little blurb that I wrote up of all the steps that you go through to get your account set up, and we'll get you there. It's really, really cool. On Steam It, we actually get paid for our content by you guys simply upvoting us. You don't even have to pay us money. All you do is like our work and comment on our work, and you also get paid for commenting.
Definitely.
So it is win-win in terms of people being able to help to support independent media without actually even having to pay any money for it, and earning a little bit of money yourself. So definitely check out steamit.com and DM me on Twitter at Suzie3D, SUZI number 3D, if you need any help, and I will hook you up.
Definitely.
Cool. What else in news this week? I did a 3-hour-long epic interview the other day that you guys might want to check out with Ramola D, she's at ECC every day, one word, on Twitter. I think I have the video somewhere. I haven't put it on my YouTube channel yet, but I will. But it was pretty well received. I covered a lot of ground. I talked about Decipher and the findings that we made in this series. I talked about Snowden and WikiLeaks, about the documented evidence that they have released and why it's so important that we support them and show solidarity to them. I talked about activism and journalism and surveillance and internet party and a whole bunch of stuff. So check that out also. I'll find my tweet about it and retweet it so you guys can go and have a look. But it was a pretty epic interview. And I got a lot of really, really positive feedback about it. So it was really cool. Also, I'm on H.A. Goodman, I think, sometime in the next couple of days.
Awesome.
We had to postpone it, but he will come back to me with a time. I think maybe on Tuesday. I'm going to be doing a show with H.A. Goodman, and that is because of the big Dutch-Russia hacking piece, the debunking that I wrote, which pretty much went viral in Europe, which was amazing.
And it seems like it really did successfully shut that down. That whole narrative just kind of disappeared. And that's when you know it's successful. They just give up on it. So
yeah, that's true.
Probably destroyed a good amount of money that they invested in coming up with that and staging the whole thing and whatever.
It was very funny to me when you said, you were like, you stopped a nuclear war today. And I was like,
on your day off.
Really?
Life goals.
Yeah. On my day off, I stopped a nuclear war. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure that I stopped a nuclear war, but I definitely appear to have thrown a spanner in the propaganda works of the mainstream, because I don't often pat myself on the back, but I did actually get that article out within 12 hours of the big mainstream media push on that narrative. And it looks like it has been successfully shut down. I also picked up about at least 500, close to 1,000 Dutch followers, which is cool. So now I have all these awesome people from the Netherlands. And the reason that's significant is because the Netherlands is trying to pass the same type of mass surveillance legislation that has already been passed in all of the Five Eyes and around the Western world, to allow them to tap their internet at cable level and mass surveil their population and then funnel that data to the NSA. So the Dutch have a referendum coming up on that, which seems to be one of the major reasons why there was this whole mainstream narrative that the spies are wonderful and Russia's the evil enemy and therefore everyone should be spied on, because the spies are wonderful. So that was why it was particularly important to shut that down, that narrative down. And yeah, I did seem to accomplish that. So that's pretty awesome. Pretty cool stuff. I also did a 30-hour work stint. I'd already been working for 20-something hours when I started writing that article, and I was actually really worried that when I went and reread it, that it was going to be like bumbling, incoherent babble because of like how tired I was when I wrote it. But it seems to have come out all right. So
yeah,
very
definitely
cool.
Yeah, and I think one thing that people don't understand sometimes about writing is that a lot of it is the timing. That is what in news writing, especially. I mean, mainstream news writers might know that, but so I think bloggers and independent media sometimes they want to write like a college thesis or something, and that sometimes is less important than getting it out quickly, like you did. So definitely,
yeah. And I deliberately gave it the clickbait style headline, like. That's why I called it like 10, whatever it is, 10 reasons that the Dutch-Russia hacking scandal is a myth. Or now I can't even remember what my own article is titled, but it was something like that.
Something like BS, but not that word, but something
like
that.
I deliberately wrote that clickbait style, like BuzzFeed style headline, because I know that people are so accustomed to like, 10 reasons, and they'll be like relatively short, and I can just click on this.
Why? Yeah. I can't understand why people are so like in love with 10 dot points or 10 reasons why. Top 5 things that,
Yeah, it's sad, but it's true. It's truly accessible to the masses. Whereas, like, if I'd called it, like, the historic importance of pushing back against the the new Dutch spying law, it probably would have got like a fraction of the hits. So
definitely, like the college paper title, like, or an academic paper of any type. Yeah, definitely. Less clicks. Yeah, and I've noticed that too with our articles. Like sometimes it'll be about something really important, but when we title it conservatively, it just nobody cares. So
very true. And I can see that also the Disobedient media article written by Adam Carter that followed up my piece has also been pretty widely circulated. 10 reasons the Dutch-Russia hacking story is fake news is the headline that I used.
Yeah, that's right. Fake news. That's a great phrase right now. I love using the phrase fake news to turn it back on the establishment corruption and all of that. It's really great to use your own lingo like that.
That's the gift that keeps on giving that came straight from Hillary Clinton.
Exactly.
And that's the classic example where an establishment figure coins this term thinking that they can use it to their benefit, and then instantly it becomes, I think wasn't it Julian Assange who actually said at the time, predicted like this is going to come back to haunt her?
Yeah, I remember that.
Using this term because it's just too accessible to everybody, and anyone with an opinion can deem anything to be fake news. So
definitely. Yeah, no, and the article that Adam wrote recently that's been shared around a lot was actually the one that Caitlin cited, which was about it was about the think tanks that were behind some Russian hacking scandal stuff. Like they wanted to call there was this Hamilton 68 thing, all of that. Yeah. God, I'm so brain dead. I can't even explain the stories that we published. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that's the article that Adam has had a really good response with lately.
Yeah, cool. His work is amazing. It's so like super smart, intellectual stuff. Like he's really, really, everything's really well sourced and really like he's so technically proficient.
Yeah, definitely.
Really awesome. Okay, cool. I'm just opening up my little file with all the Snowden stuff. Now, where did we get up to last time? I think we only got up to about like 4 or 5.
Like 1 or 2 that we actually went through. I think maybe 4 or 5.
Okay, I can see where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay, how are you guys all doing tonight? We've got a decent amount of people in chat. Hi, Fly. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Barbara. Hi, Hope. Neon Butterfly. Crocodile, of course. Kathy B. Hi, you guys. Shelley. Hi, Shelley. Hi, Independent Outsider. Hi, Eric. Awesome. Okay, we will get started on the documents now.
Awesome.
So I will just share screen and we will get... Look, you look pretty awake. Look at that. That's pretty animated.
Oh,
We'll try and keep the stream short, I think, because for once I actually don't have massive bags under my eyes. I'm quite enjoying that. Actually got some decent sleep recently. It's pretty good. I actually slept before the stream, which is something I don't usually do. So that's probably a good plan for the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of us is always ridiculously tired. If it's not you, then it's me. So
well, there's always something going on in our lives, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Okay, so here we go. More leadership advice from the NSA. Letter to the editor, helping your leaders make decisions that stick. Oh, this is actually feedback to an article that they posted called that. Okay, so from someone who should remain anonymous, I wanted to say I thought the article entitled The Bald Truth, Helping Your Leaders Make Decisions That Stick was a very good article and something that many people seem to need to hear. I think the prevalence of this point solution briefing is the result of, continuing the analogy in the article, the metaphor analogy virus that NSA suffers from. Now, this is very amusing because recently we covered the CanSLO document, and the CanSLO document was the Canadian liaison office to the NSA. And their entire document was a metaphor. And the metaphor they were using was a medical metaphor for healthy patients and keeping our relationship with the NSA healthy, which basically means complying with whatever the NSA wants them to do and giving the NSA anything they want to be given. But it was very much a classic example of this obsession with metaphors. Now, I love to use metaphors too. I just don't use metaphors to convince people to give me all of their personal data. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
The metaphor analogy virus that NSA suffers from, the virus often causes good ideas to be taken way too literally, and the point they were trying to get across is often overlooked. After all, it makes sense for people to make a point solution briefing when leaders don't want to just hear problems, they want solutions. The agency has a very bad habit of taking analogies, example cases, and metaphors and turning them into the basis for strategy. Just like a point solution briefing can lead to the problem not being solved because of constant reevaluation, many other programs end up being more harmful than useful because the analogy or metaphor or other figure of speech is taken too literally. I will show some examples of specific programs. Take the, looks like there is. Take the DNI, and we're now in, it's been classified secret. Take the Director of National Intelligence content presentation philosophy, for example. Analysts want to see data the way the user saw it. So now we have the concept of native view. While we currently refer to the native presentation of the data, analysts would not be happy with and would not want to use a system that only gave them a choice between displaying what the target saw or the raw data. What analysts want and have been able to get for some data with current presentation systems is something like what the user saw, but with all kinds of SIGINT information and normally hidden data presented as well. Unfortunately, there are still future systems that seem to be building to meet the native view simile instead of the true needs of the analyst. That's quite interesting because, stop share. That's quite interesting because that was one of the earliest documents that we covered, was this concept of them wanting to see what the target saw on their computer as if they were the target. So it's interesting to see that that principle, which was adopted by senior management and did become a part of their strategy for developing their tools, is actually not what the analysts wanted at all.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we'll continue. Then there is a more general idea of how to get analysts DNI data. It seems that examples are provided to decision makers such as, we want to see data like in the CNE portal, or we want to view data as easily as going to a web portal. Here again, the analogy is often talked about as if it is the solution. My hope is that leaders and solution providers have worked to find out why analysts like these interfaces. They are easy ways to traverse metadata or different kinds to get to content that we care about and provide customizable views and single query points and are building to the underlying needs of the analyst. Now, that's very interesting because that's the first example that I've seen of metadata being referred to as a passage to the content.
True. Yeah, I don't remember.
Rather than metadata and collection and content collection just being separate things, they're actually making a direct reference to metadata leading to identifying content. I'm hearing Snowden in my head saying it's not just metadata. It's not just metadata. At 2014 Moment of Truth event, when he made the revelations about New Zealand, spying on New Zealand, that at that time we were getting it's just metadata lecture from the government.
Yeah.
But this is directly showing us that metadata leads to content.
Good point. Very important point, for sure. And that was used in the US as well. I mean, you mentioned the instance about New Zealand, but the same thing was said about the NSA spying on Americans. Oh, they're just identifying the metadata about the call. They're not actually, yeah. So that same argument has been used a lot. But.
Now I've lost my place. Traverse metadata, here we go, to get content that we care about, right? Again, I think this article is great to see from a leader and certainly something I hope a lot of others, especially those who don't already recognize this as a problem, get a chance to read. Okay, so I think that this actually is significant. I would report on it, and the reason it's significant is because of this.
Definitely.
So it's not just metadata.
Yeah, that's a huge.
And here's the proof.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go ahead and add that to my batch 5 notes.
Definitely.
Okay. So that's a really good example of where valuable information we've been able to harvest valuable information from something that was simply a response, like a letter to the editor style note to the publishers of SIDToday. New tool identifies non-productive phone numbers from collection strategies and requirement center. A new reporting tool is now available that will help both the analyst and mission manager make more informed decisions on target development and tasking. The tool, which identifies non-productive phone numbers for detasking, was developed by the Rainman project under Technology Services in collaboration with the collection. That's a really interesting choice of word there. In collaboration with the Collection Strategies and Requirements Center, it expands the capabilities of Rayman, an automated system that prioritizes the traffic which language analysts must scan, thereby helping them find items of intelligence value and reducing the time spent processing useless data. In a nutshell, the reporting tool will compare the DNR selectors, phone numbers that each target office has tasked for collection with the traffic that's actually been collected and returned to that office for processing. These reports also provide feedback statistics on what the target office has done with the collected traffic, including how much of each phone number's traffic has been reviewed, deemed relevant, and reported on for each target office zip code. So it's analytics, basically. This basic information enables the target offices and tasking managers to identify non-productive selectors for detasking and to prioritize and assign value to the collected voice traffic. What once the counterterrorism product line days to what once took the counterterrorism product line days to generate can now be obtained in just a few mouse clicks from a web browser. So this is the automation side. The heavy lifting is done by the Rain Man data mining project, correlating Octave DNR tasking data with hybrid signal related information and plus SIGINT product reporting statistics. Okay, so it is matching up, or correlating is better than matching up, the data from their task management tool with the information of the actual target source, the communication that's been collected on, and the reporting statistics in terms of which means what they're turning over to their customers. And they're taking those three things and correlating them so that they can bump up or down in the priority queue the particular work. This new tool is already paying dividends for both the CSRC and Analysing production product line organizations. The regional targets group was able to identify and detask thousands of phone numbers that were consuming precious SIGINT resources, but providing nothing of value. The European Security Centre has identified productive phone numbers to seed their cold chaining target development efforts. Counterterrorism used the tool to identify the collection sources of unwanted traffic, which the CSRC then shut off. In short, the tool has usages that aid both the analytic community and mission managers alike. Okay, so it's just the NSA's attempt to make themselves more efficient, to utilize automation for their benefit. I don't think there's anything there that's particularly interesting. The little card that made a big impact in Iraq, Deputy Chief of Military Integration. Do you want to read through this one?
Sure. It starts with a secret paragraph, and it says, posted at my desk in the wilds of Baghdad, the information sharing card shown below is in a single page captured the essence of what information sharing for NSA should be, can be, and will be. In my 7 years working in customer environments in DCI, JCS, J2, and et cetera, and twice in Baghdad, I had come to realize how sharing information in non-traditional ways makes a difference. When I received the information sharing card in Iraq, I literally stood up and cheered. Plainly stated, perfectly executed, the card gives customer liaisons of all descriptions the latitude to support their customers as desired under Transformation 2.0. The information sharing card makes it easy for people to accept the changes brought by Transformation 2.0. Clear, easy to read guidelines are intended to enable the NSA's production community to deal with NSA reps in the field as well as with NSA's customers without fear. The day I received the card, I was trying to encourage one of my colleagues to talk about SIGINT details to encourage analytic flow, but he was uncomfortable. Then I read guideline number 8 on the information sharing card. Quote, it's okay to talk about, show, and share evaluated, minimized, unpublished SIGINT to customers and partners in order to facilitate analytic collaboration. This has become my personal favorite as it describes what I was trying to explain and gives clear written authority from HQ that analysts can refer to and feel comfortable with. The card has made immediate impact. Unclassified force protection, and then it goes to top secret, and it says the Iraq Survey Group has conducted over 3,000 missions in this past year in their search for Iraqi weapons of mass destruction. While traveling through Iraq is inherently dangerous, certain missions are considered more dangerous than others when the threat level is high around a certain facility or area that the ISG is going to visit. NSA liaisons here draw a box around the area, and GEO, S2L, provides threat tips on hostile emitters within the area. And then another secret paragraph, it says, on 24 March 2004, the ISG was in its third day of a 4-day mission, each day returning to a suspect facility that had previously produced dual-use chemical components. There were upset concerns about their return to the same location, even though they were deviating their route. One of the GEO tippers placed a hostile emitter in the direct line of return from the site. Because of this tipper, the team took an alternate route, potentially avoiding an incident. While we will never be able to prove that NSA information actually averted an incident, the customer felt incredibly grateful for this support from our agency. The geolocation tipper was unfinished intelligence that was evaluated and minimized, and it made a difference. And then it talks about collaborative analysis, which is again is top secret, and it says, in other case, the ISG nuclear team requested that NSA be particularly attentive to any information concerning a deceased Iraqi nuclear scientist, and they provided phone numbers of the scientist's family. NSA tasked the numbers and shortly thereafter issued a SIGINT product report based on the collection. Because the report showed the existence of certain documentation, a mission was planned to search the son's residence. This outcome would not have been possible without the open, informal analytic discussion encouraged and made clear by the information sharing card. Analytic discussion is the critical element. This is where the SIGINT hits the road. The card and the actions it encourages has made a huge difference in Iraq and throughout the extended enterprise. And that seems to be the end of the article. So it looks from my end like it's the end of the article. God, I can't even speak.
The most interesting thing there to me was that they did 3,000 missions for weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
Found nothing, literally nothing. I don't know. Do you guys, let's just check out chat and see. Do you guys think there was anything else particularly interesting in that? Aside from the fact that if you are a scientist and you die, they will spy on your family?
Did anybody, and I don't know what chat says, but did anybody, and Suzie, let me know if this is old news already, but was it interesting to you? Because I know we've talked about Transformation 2.0 1,000 times, but the way that they were talking about basically relaxing rules for customers, was that at all interesting to you, or is that just kind of old news?
What they're saying is that they can basically discuss raw stuff with them, but they used the word, let me just go back to the document really quick.
What was it? Analytic something discussion?
No, something starting with M, not minimize, something else. Where was it?
Yeah, not, what was that?
They do say minimized, but actually minimized, it just leads to another document. It doesn't actually give the...
Mitigated, was that it?
No, it was something that they essentially said that the information had been vetted.
Yeah.
It's okay to talk about show and share evaluated, minimized, unpublished SIGINT to customers and partners in order to facilitate analytic collaboration.
That's the sentence that struck me.
Guideline number 8 on the information sharing card. It's difficult to know unless, minimized. It's okay to talk about, show and share, evaluated. Okay. Evaluated, so they've looked at it and worked out what's in it.
Yeah.
Minimized, assumedly, would mean like they're not going to give them everything. They're just going to give them whatever's relevant or pertinent to a specific scenario. Unpublished, I assume that means that they haven't reported on it or reported to in the sense of giving it to customers and to partners in order to facilitate analytic collaboration. I mean, the thing is, like in the last episode where we went through and discovered that actually the director of the NSA is basically allowed to set the rules for whatever the NSA does, which is probably one of the most bizarre things that I've ever heard in my lifetime. I would assume that then it's him who's saying it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
That must have come down from the director's office.
Ultimately.
I think the database reporting stuff is even more significant than this, but it does confirm that yet again they can hand basically raw SIGINT to customers.
Yeah.
But that's what they were doing with the database reporting. So I'm not convinced that this is separately significant.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it falls under the same kind of category. So for those that might not know, database reporting is where we discovered that they were handing entire databases to the NSA customers rather than just specific reports based off SIGINT. They're actually giving them entire databases of raw SIGINT.
Huge.
Cacti Juice says that they think the power is in compartmentalization. Who determines what is top secret, secret, classified, and unclassified? That is the discussion that relates to the discussion we recently had, where one of the NSA Congressional Liaison Office guys, alumni, was saying that they needed to make sure that the overseers did not change the rules on the classification, and that NSA should be like in charge of that themselves, which is interesting because that is a direct violation of the Truman Directive for the establishment of the NSA. In the Truman Directive, it specifically states that NSA would not be responsible for the classification level of information. But NSA clearly wants to be responsible for that.
I'm just retweeting.
Yeah, Fly just says that would mean the Federal Reserve might get raw SIGINT. That is absolutely 100% correct. The customers are definitely getting raw SIGINT. We know this from the database reporting where they're getting entire databases of raw SIGINT, not even just a specific piece, but actual entire databases. I'm just quickly going to tweet out that part about metadata leading to content.
Yeah, I'm just retweeting all of the wonderful people who have tweeted out the watch link for us. That's amazing. Thank you. There are some people outside my house making some interesting conversational noises. It's always weird on Friday when we stream because there's always like, you know, motorcycles going right by my place and all sorts of stuff.
Okay. If you guys want to retweet the tweet that I just sent, it'll be super cool. And I'll just add to it that we are live right now. Thank you to those of you who are tweeting out the link and telling everyone that we're on. That's really awesome. Okay. The 3,000 missions for weapons of mass destruction, what do you think? Is that worth reporting on? It may well be in the Intercept reporting, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's worth reporting on by itself, but I thought it was a bit interesting just in
1 year.
Yeah.
3,000 missions in this past year.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. I don't know if it's quote newsworthy. It's not something that's groundbreaking, but I think it's I think could be worth like just a line
I'll just
somewhere.
actually send a tweet about it, I think.
And hi to everyone that's joined us. I see we've gained a few more people in
Oh,
chat.
cool.
We're glad that you're here. Thank you. And we will be, Suzie, do you want me to like go start reading the next doc while you tweet, or just like reading?
I just finished. Okay. If you guys want to share it, that would be really cool.
Awesome. I will go retweet that now.
Now I'm feeling guilty for saying idiots at the end of it, but really, what a waste of friggin' money and time and blood and lives and an entire country, in fact. When I put it in that context, I don't feel so bad about calling them idiots. Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think you need to feel bad about that one bit at all.
I
think that's a pretty mild term for that, actually, but.
Okay, Colombian, this was definitely covered in the Intercept, so I'm going to skip that one.
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm always glad when we're able to actively skip the ones they've covered, because I'd hate to have us like find something amazing and then go and find that they covered it. It'd be such a waste of time, but that's it.
Yeah, like I said, like the majority of what they cover is like where it pertains to a specific country. Like they cover it like because it's Iraq or because it's Afghanistan or because it's Colombia or because it's Haiti or I'm not sure why exactly, but they're really interested in like information that pertains to a specific geolocation. Maybe because they're wanting to engage the audiences in those countries, maybe because they I think that's why. And obviously they have got a lot of stories on the US as well.
Definitely.
And I mean, it was a really useful and powerful model for Snowden to be able to go in the virtual sense to speak at all these different countries like he did in New Zealand and talk about the documents that specifically relate to New Zealand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was probably an easy way for them to search the databases as well. When they had this mountain of information, they can type New Zealand and get all the docs that relate to New Zealand, et cetera, et cetera. But from my perspective, we've found so much information in documents that are otherwise unremarkable, like a letter to the editor or someone talking about, you know, their deployment experience in whatever place. Like,
yeah,
even basic corporate process documentation can be very, very interesting.
Yeah, well, you can see how that would slip through the cracks if what they're doing is going and searching for something like New Zealand or Iraq or Indonesia, and you know they look through all of those documents. You can just really see how, like you said, a letter to the editor or some of these just process documents that might have one tiny gem in one line could be easily just kind of overlooked, not through any intention to miss the finding, but just it's easy to overlook unintentionally.
Cockatoo says that we're doing some long overdue oversight of the NSA.
That's one way to put it.
Where legislative oversight fails and where the director of the NSA fails to provide oversight for his own agency, then I guess this is what it comes down to: citizen journalists poring over the documents on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, when the entire legacy press is so embedded with that intelligence community, who else is going to actually hold those structures to account? Nobody, except people that just volunteer the time, you know? Yeah, exactly. Not the press as most people understand it, but WikiLeaks is doing the job of the press for sure.
I had to laugh today when WikiLeaks shared Caitlin Steamer article and someone said, "This is just a blog. This is just a blogger writing on a blog." And I was like, a blogger writing on a blog is far more credible than the New York Times.
Right now,
far more credible.
Definitely.
Okay, moving along. Next document. Signals Intelligence Directorate's senior enlisted leader from the Signals Intelligence Director. The director recently announced the appointment of Chief Master somebody as the new senior enlisted advisor. Because our military workforce is so important to the success of our mission, I'd like to reintroduce that person, who is the liaison between the director of the NSA, senior enlisted advisor, Central Security Service Office, and service cryptologic organizations and elements at NSAW. Such and such has been in the directorate for over a year. I've placed many responsibilities on him. He wears several hats and fulfills many necessary functions with regards to the military workforce. He advises me and other SIGINT leaders concerning the effective operation of the SIGINT system. I rely on him to know inside and out what we do and how we do it. That person also serves as the internal assignment manager for military personnel within SID. He advocates for military personnel and helps to shape policy on issues that affect the military workforce and mission. Why do they keep referring to military? Because we know that SID has military and civilian officers.
I don't know.
He keeps the lines of communication open between me and the military workforce and the civilian workforce who serve with him. Okay, so it's like a specific liaison just to the military component. Yeah. Over the past year, such and such has been the driving force behind many important initiatives. He ensured that 100% of the military billets in SID were justified for the recent DoD Validation and Assessment Board. Now, how ironic is that the Department of Defense is making NSA account for its budgeting? When the DoD has lost how much money? Isn't it like $4 trillion or something? He saw the need to improve officer placement within the Signals Intelligence Directorate, and he has delegated placement authority to 3 senior officer representatives at the 06 level. This process ensures all officers and warrant officers in our organization receive the guidance and career advice necessary. He restructured the enlisted skills shop and the manner in which enlisted service members are placed within the Signals Intelligence Directorate, using requirements, priorities, and job descriptions. This is pretty super boring, irrelevant stuff so far. He also changed the responsibilities of the senior enlisted advisor, now leader, and senior enlisted representatives. Okay, I'm just going to skim through this because so far I don't see anything interesting whatsoever.
Fair enough.
Awards process, blah, 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 blah. No, boring. Next. Guidance for 2004 P3 ratings from also the same source. It's a performance review. The rating guidelines for the performance reviews. Greatly exceeded objectives, considerably surpassed goals, performance objectives achieved with maximum impact, unprecedented or overwhelming success, superior performance, eligible for all kinds of stuff, surpassed goals, consistently achieved goals, sometimes achieved goals, did not achieve goals. Oh, good Lord. Okay, so it's just a bunch of HR, stereotypical HR, corporate HR nonsense.
Drivel.
Okay, goodbye. Next. This should get a bit more interesting because that is NSA and the Canadian Spies CSE. NSA and CSE SIGINT hold their bilateral conference, and we are in, I want to say June 2005, but we're not. We're in 6th of January 2005. Held in Maryland. They're just updating each other on what's been going on. Oh, consider this a success. They always go on about how successful their meetings and conferences are.
I want to see them say once, the meeting was horrible and we got nothing done. And I hate that. Yeah, I freaking hate the Canadians, you know. I just want to hear them say that like one time.
Our relationship is unhealthy. Okay. Okay, here we go. Finally, there was joint agreement to continue collaborative efforts to further develop the entire SIGINT enterprise, which is the extended enterprise, which is the global network. So basically, the Canadians are saying that they are in it with the globalization agenda to have increase the power of the NSA until it is literally a global organization. This is who attended. Okay. So that would probably be of use to some Canadians that I can think of, so I might just tweet it to them. It won't be news to them, but it still might be useful to them. How are you guys going in chat?
I think they're doing pretty well. Fly is welcoming everyone, and I don't see any questions at this time. If anybody who's new, especially, if you have any questions about what we're doing, how we're doing it, at all, just throw them into chat and we'll be glad to answer them. Because I know we've done these streams a number of times now, and we have a regular group who know what we're doing. But yeah, if you're confused or if you have questions about a specific document we're looking at, then please feel free to ask. Either we will either answer, just verbally here, or somebody in chat will answer you. And hi, Romola. I see that you're a newcomer. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Okay. Hi, Romola. I was just actually plugging the interview that I did with you earlier this week, back at the beginning of the stream. Romola might be able to get you the link, one of you guys, so you can show it to everyone. Cool. 1329C says they're enjoying the good companionship. We're really lucky. Like, our people here are just so awesome. Like, as you can tell, they're really nice and friendly and helpful and smart and have great information and just a really amazing team. We are super, super, super lucky to have them. I feel very blessed that we have such cool people hanging out with us every stream. Totally drama-free as well, which is awesome.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen one negative comment ever in any of our streams, and we've been doing this for a while, and I'm really proud of that. We have such an awesome, positive community that are also just really helpful, and they're all amazing. So I think we have one of the best little group communities out there, honestly. They're all amazing.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next document. Here we go. Analysts have influence at the top. Target operational pilot from Trailblazer mission element. Since the inception of the target operational pilot, the top and its analytic partnerships have successfully driven architectural requirements, recommended potential technical solutions, and delivered incremental capability to the analysts. Analysts are encouraged to identify challenges. Okay, this is not useful so far. I'm just going to skim from this point.
Yeah, no, it's actually really nice to breeze through a few less useful documents, just because it gets us through the list faster. So then if we find something really, really amazing, we don't feel as bad, pausing on it and really looking at it for a while.
Yeah. There was nothing in there. Okay, Christmas in Iraq. These like narrative story ones are usually relatively interesting to read through. Okay, you're up.
All right, so Christmas in Iraq from Donna L. Rober. and to do with data acquisition in Iraq, obviously. The first paragraph is unclassified, and it says, months ago, as I sat home watching the headlines filled with the latest casualties in Iraq, I, like so many other Americans, wondered why we were sacrificing our troops in a country that obviously didn't want us there. When the call came asking me to deploy to Baghdad, I was overcome with emotions, but I knew I had to do it for our troops. After just a few weeks on the ground, I can honestly say we are doing it not just for our troops, but also for the great people of Iraq, who desperately want to regain control of their country and build a proud and free society. That makes me want to vomit having to read that sentence. I have the opportunity to travel out into the IZ, International Green Zone, several times now, and I have to say that it is encouraging to work with the locals and hear how thankful they are for our support and efforts. I have met businessmen who are putting their effort towards rebuilding infrastructure and are excited every time there is a tenth of an hour of increased electricity available every day. I have met Iraqis shoveling sand into sandbags to protect our living areas or cooking our meals, who are educated as lawyers and accountants, anxious to get back to work, but willing to do whatever it takes until that day comes. These are people who every day have their lives and those of their families threatened because they are working for or with the infidels. I find it very disconcerting to enter areas with them and wait while they are all but strip searched. Meanwhile, we are standing there with body armor, fully loaded weapons, free to roam. It takes them from 1 to 3 hours just to get into the zone, and then they go through multiple searches, even when escorted, at every internal checkpoint. Kind of uncomfortable for me, but they are so very gracious and say it is for your safety and ours. As we drive through the streets, I see the bombed out hulks of Iraqi police stations and security force vehicles. These are the Iraqis who are willing to put their lives on the line daily to help their own countrymen. The same is true for those serving with the Iraqi National Intelligence Service SIGINT element, who are at great risk every day as they go to work, putting out solid, valuable, actionable SIGINT that is saving innocent lives daily. On Christmas Eve, a small group of folks went out to the military hospital to sing carols and spend some time with our recovering soldiers. One of our guys was in a Santa suit. They had Iraqis, adults and children coming up to them on the streets begging to have their pictures taken with Santa. They were repeatedly wishing our folks a very Merry Christmas and thanking them for being there. That is the kind of thinking you won't see on CNN. That is the kind of thing you won't see on CNN, and yet that display of gratitude goes on every single day. On Christmas Day, the head of Iraqi SIGINT element told some of our folks, "We are all working together for a common cause, the destruction of global terrorism. I'm grateful you gave up Christmas with your family to make Iraq a free and democratic country." It is now clear to me that the job we are doing is not to save the face of the US, but to help our decision and policymakers do the right things for this potentially great nation of Iraq, while protecting our own people and those Iraqis who are willing to give their lives to build a better nation. Our target is a subset of this population who are taking advantage and hiding amongst some really good people. Many are willing to expose them, many fear for their lives. Between some incredible SIGINT and improving human effort, I believe we are getting ahead. It is hard to judge how good of a job we are doing, but I have to believe we are making a difference. I don't know that we will ever put a lid on it, but if we give the Iraqis a chance, they may be able to bring some order into play. That is why we are here, so we can get out of here and leave them with the potential for a happy, healthy, safe, and prosperous future. It's just so sickening to read that.
Yeah, you can see the look on my face.
Yeah, no, I can barely read that sentence without just stopping and just saying, guys, this is so bad. So bad.
For the first time, I actually find myself wondering whether the person who wrote this report exists.
Yeah. That was the biggest piece of absolute crap that I've ever looked at with you, I think, that emotionally gets me the worst. I mean, we've looked at really big findings, but that was sickening.
We've seen a lot of these missives from Iraq, and now we've seen them through 2003, 2004, and now we're in 2005. So this is the third batch of documents where we're reading these reports from the front line from Baghdad. There were two significant things there for me. One is the fact that this person thinks that Christmas didn't happen in Iraq until the US Army arrived. Iraq was a secular society.
Exactly.
They had Sunni and Shia and Iraqi Christians with churches living side by side in peace. they had Christmas trees and they had Santa Claus. Santa Claus did not come to Iraq because the US military bombed it and invaded it.
Exactly.
Santa and the reason the kids want to have their photo taken with Santa is because they used to have their photo taken with Santa before the country was invaded. But literally, this person is like, we've brought Santa to Iraq.
Well, even more, like,
Christmas to Iraq.
We brought order to Iraq. We've brought order. You know, they came and destabilized the whole country, destroyed it, killed over 500,000 civilians. That's bringing order. I just don't even have words for that level of BS.
And then she's like, you know, the businessmen are so grateful when there is 1/10 of an hour more electricity. Do you know how much electricity they had before the US invaded?
Yeah,
they had 24 hours a day of electricity.
Yeah, and those accountants that were filling sandbags, they had jobs. Now they're filling sandbags, and that's a good thing. You know?
Oh my God, unbelievable.
It was almost like a noble savage type narrative, like, oh, they're so happy that we're, you know, just coming in and imposing our will on them. You know, they just love it. It's just great.
You know, the other significant thing though about that document is that it's the first time that we have seen an acknowledgement that things aren't going so great.
You know, that's what I actually get from that too, for sure.
At the beginning, right? Like at the beginning, there was a line somewhere, I'm just rereading over it, that basically said, like, you know, things, they still try and make it like things are going to get better. There's still hope. We're still working towards this utopian society that we're somehow going to impose by bombing people and killing people. But it was the first time that you got that sense of like, it was right at the beginning when she says that about her not wanting to go there. Here we go. Why I wondered why we were sacrificing our. See, this is the other thing that makes me think it's really propagandistic, is that this reference here, because what it's doing is it's an acknowledgement from the NSA that people are not in support of this war, and the fact that we haven't seen that before, and the fact that go ahead. Like so many other Americans, I wondered why we were sacrificing our troops in a country that obviously didn't want us there. Yeah, but then the whole rest of the article is talking. Yeah, exactly. Of course, yeah. Exactly. Then the whole rest of the article is, oh, but I met all these people that are totally fine with being strip searched for 3 hours to like enter the green zone and to not be accountants and instead be shoveling sand and to have people dying all around them. And it's all okay because we brought Santa Claus and Christmas to Iraq. Like, it is full on hardcore propaganda. But the fact that they felt that they needed to put this sentence right at the beginning is them tacitly acknowledging that by this point, by what date are we now in January? 7th of January 2005, people didn't want America. Americans didn't want America in Iraq. Yeah, and the other thing is too, the fact that they talk so much about how the Iraqis love them bringing order, and the fact that they talk so much about how they're helping the country, that really makes me feel like the aim of this propaganda is to make is to create this narrative where the order is being imposed in a positive way, meaning that there is actually a lot of destabilization happening, as we know there was. You know, as we know, the country is being destroyed at that point. But so instead of, you know, acknowledging that, they're going the opposite way and trying to create this fantasy where there's order being brought. So it's kind of like in the reverse sense, it shows you that there's a serious problem with destabilization happening. So. Totally. And things get a lot worse after this. Like by 2007, it's a total, complete and utter shit show. There's the death squads. There's like the body count going through the roof. So as we keep progressing through these documents, and guys, each batch of files is a year. It spans a year. So we're now in batch 5. By the time we get to batch 7 or batch 8, once Intercept eventually releases them, we will be seeing, I would say, they will not be able to just write these feel-good documents about how everything's still going to turn out. Well, maybe they do. Maybe they are. Maybe they are that deluded.
Yeah, I think it'll be how are we going to move forward. They won't acknowledge that they fucked up. They'll just be like, okay, well, what's our plan now? We're going to do a really great job fixing this mess, and they'll just pretend like they didn't make the mess.
And of course, one of the interesting findings from the last batch was that they admitted that they were nation building in Iraq and in Afghanistan, which was the complete opposite of what Powell and all the other US UN mission diplomats and stuff were getting up and saying. They were saying, we are not there for nation building, we are there for terrorism. But internally, the NSA documents are saying, yep, we're there for nation building. Yep, we're going to build a country that's pro-US interests, serves our agenda. So,
and hearing
yet again, I was just going to say, yet again, what is sold to the American public by its leadership is the total opposite from what these intelligence agencies are telling each other on the inside.
And thank God we have these documents to show that, And in this document, when they mentioned the Iraqi police forces being bombed out and everything, and then also talking about imposing order and whatever, I thought it just reminded me of the fact that they fired the whole Iraqi police force and the army forces. And that's one of the huge things that destabilized the entire country. So the irony, the hypocrisy in that whole document is so massive. Just
completely agree.
Address it.
Completely agree. Someone saying on Twitter that they're surprised, that their only surprise is that with those 3,000 missions to find non-existent weapons of mass destruction, that they didn't just find some.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And a lot of people said the same thing, totally.
And the other thing is, now I've completely lost my train of thought because I'm so tired, but go right ahead.
Thank you again to everyone who's tweeting out stuff, because it saves me a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
so thank you for sending out the live link and whatnot. I saw we had like 40 people in here just a minute ago, which is pretty awesome for us. Okay, so we'll move on because we made good progress today so far. Do we want to include in our reporting this Santa Christmas nonsense?
Absolutely, I would. The style of writing I do is sometimes, on an op-ed style of writing, and I would want to dissect this potentially in a whole article and just go point by point of how BS it is. But that's just my feeling about it. So.
Okay, I'm just adding it to my notes then.
And I'm not saying that because it adds some sort of major like factual finding, but to show their internal propaganda about it.
Definitely. I find the Christmas stuff like really disconcerting, because the fact that they didn't understand that Iraq was already a secular society, that Iraqi Christians lived in peace and had churches and they had Christmas and they had Santa, just goes to show like how totally fail the debriefing is before they're deploying these people to Iraq. That they literally think that they're like Christian warriors bringing Christmas to Iraq.
Yeah.
When Christmas had existed there for thousands of years quite nicely by itself. Thanks very much.
Yeah, no, that's that whole noble savage feeling that I got from it. Like, we're bringing these people who don't know really how to do their own country. We're going to show them how to organize a country. That really, really patronizing vibe. And this is one of the only documents that I really felt the need to stop and just be like, oh my God, in the middle of it, as opposed to just kind of reading it and going, oh yeah, no, that was terrible. Every single line was like a struggle to read out loud. So anyway, moving on.
Yeah, it's the arrogance, right? But it's like an unwitting arrogance.
Yeah.
Like, this person is probably a perfectly nice person if they do in fact exist, and you meet them on the street, but they have been so conditioned and so propagandized. Hubris, David is saying to me. It is hubris. They're so propagandized to believe that that they're righteous and that they're there for the right reasons. And we know from the West Africa documents that we found, where the NSA once again is admitting our military is in West Africa for oil. We want an uninterrupted flow of oil from West Africa to ourselves and to our partners. So therefore, we are backing up our efforts there with like men on the ground, with combat troops. So
it didn't even seem to be an issue for them to admit that. Yeah.
correct. That it was, they didn't exactly, it was like any other day of the week for them to say that in their own documents. But then you match that up against what this woman is saying. This woman's like, we're there for the Iraqi people, blah, blah, blah. But we know that they're there for the oil, just like they're there in West Africa for the oil. And they admit that fact openly. So it's just yet another reason that makes this total propaganda. Okay, I want to keep moving because we've done pretty well so far, and I want to keep plowing through some more documents.
Yeah, I think it's been a variety of interesting documents in some different ways, for sure.
Okay, the power of the purse strings from SIGINT Communications, a brief tutorial on how the agency gets its funding from Congress. Although Signal's Intelligence Directorate provides intelligence primarily for the use of the executive branch of the government and the Federal Reserve Bank, it is the US Congress that provides oversight and determines the agency's budget. That is why our dealings with Congress are so important. Now that is a very telling sentence. The reason their dealings with Congress is supposed to be important is because Congress is supposed to provide oversight. That is the function of the relationship, the primary function of the relationship. But from NSA's perspective, they don't want any oversight from Congress, but they do want the money, thank you very much. So therefore, the importance of their dealings with Congress are catching so they can get funding.
Exactly.
In this article, I mean, to be fair, they do say that they provide oversight, but it's pretty clear considering that this document is titled Power of the Purse Strings.
What a title.
That their concern is not being provided oversight. Their concern is their budget.
Exactly. No, that's a great point. I think that would be a fantastic screenshot, actually, to either put in a tweet or an article. Just be like, here's what they give lip service to, and here's what they title it, just to give you an idea what they actually care about. Yeah. I mean, even if nothing else is in that article, I just think it's kind of amusing.
In this article, we'll look at how SID interacts with Congress on oversight issues. No, not on oversight issues, on budget issues. We think you'll be surprised at how much work goes into squeezing Congress for money. Most of it invisible to the general workforce. Our main contacts in Congress are these guys are in the news a lot today, aren't they? This is the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, House Appropriations Committee, and Senate Appropriations Committee. For budgeting purposes, the first two committees are known as authorizers, while the latter two are the appropriators. Let's look briefly at the process. Marking up the president's budget. The president submits a budget to Congress with SID's portion detailed in a document called the Congressional Budget Justification Book. We have covered this, or I covered this in either batch 1 or batch 2.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So in the documents that were about this Congressional Budget Justification Book, which I think from memory ran to about 600 or 700 pages. So they publish like practically an encyclopedia on why they need all of this money that they need. Whether or not anyone actually reads it, who knows? But that's how in-depth they go into to create the justifications for their budget. But in that, they were specifically giving tips to NSA managers on how to add fat to the budget requirements, on how to squeeze them for more money, basically. And they went so far as there's actually an office, they probably referenced the office somewhere in this document. I think actually was the Congressional Liaison Office that had to, anything to do with requests for money, this office had to vet it, not to bring the dollars down, but to bring the dollars up and to use specific terms and language that they knew would get the results that they wanted out of Congress. So, requesting specified amounts of money for NSA and 12 other agencies that are part of the National Foreign Intelligence Program. Every year, NSA's program and budget build puts together this book based on input from SID and the rest of the agency, excluding IAD. The above 4 congressional committees then review the book and mark it up, i.e., they indicate whether they think the funding should be raised, lowered, or left the same. The committee staffers also may request briefings on various projects to help them gauge the appropriate level of funding. The congressional committees then reconcile, this is referred to as a conference, the various versions of their markups, which result in the Intelligence Authorization Bill and the Intelligence Appropriation Bill. At that point, it is submitted to the full Congress for a vote, and if passed, sent to the President for signature or veto. Now, I'm personally not aware of any time in history that they've gotten less money. I'm pretty sure they get more like every single year on a pretty regular basis. So the lesson here is that if you want to hurt the NSA, you go after their funding. The same way they do to targets. They go after targets' funding sources and resources. So if you ever want to actually punish the NSA for all of the sick, twisted, and giant historical fuck-ups that they're responsible for, you would go after their funding. That would be the number one way, because more than anything else, that's what they're a corporation. They function as a corporation. They have a bottom line, profit and loss report. Go after the money.
Definitely.
Or they hate oversight as well. So the oversight would be the other way. Okay. The compilation of the book is a major project. Personnel from NSA's DF3 coordinate with the budget managers to gather together cost figures and justifications for every program across the directorate and present the data in a consistent format for the congressional committees. The book is due to the committees on the first Monday in February, which would be in 2 days' time. That's very interesting. How interesting is that? That the memo was released today.
Yeah, we've had a couple of synchronicities.
And their budget request is due on Monday.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Maybe we should write an article about that. I mean, that could be an easy, quick one to write. I could do that maybe over the weekend to bring attention to that. Like, while you were paying attention to this memo, which is important, this is the other thing that's kind of quietly slipping through the cracks of people's attention. But I just want to also address that in chat, in response, I was scrolling up, and in response to that, or that last document we read, a couple of people said stuff like they brought up Manifest Destiny. That was David Thompson. And then I think another person, C. Johnson, said white man's burden. And I think that's exactly right. That's exactly the type of tone that I read in that document. It's horrific. So anyway, back to this one. I just wanted to agree with some of you in chat about your interpretation of that.
I'm just tweeting that out.
Yeah, and then Jenny Lynn said, I think it was Jenny Lynn said, we have, quote, we have to bomb them to save them, like that type of hypocrisy. I completely agree. That's what they sounded like they were saying.
Okay, guys, check out that last tweet.
Awesome. I'll go retweet it.
Absolutely fascinating to me. I find it impossible to believe that that is a coincidence.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree. I think that would be
how could that be a coincidence that the memo is released on the Friday when the budget report is due on the Monday?
It's a good question.
Absolutely amazing.
I think the memo, while important, is unfortunately something that may be used for that type of purpose to divert attention from some other important issues. But I still think it's a valid and important story. But there are other things as well that also need critical thought.
In my dreams, they will get totally caned on Monday and suffer some massive budget cut that God knows how many people won't die or be targeted as a result of them not having as much money. But that is in my dreams. In reality, I don't believe for 1 second that those back-scratching, revolving door politicians are going to do a goddamn thing about it. But it would be really nice if they did. It would be a huge surprise, a very wonderful surprise.
Yeah, I very much doubt it. And yeah, very, very much doubt it. But I agree. I wish that would be the case. Yeah, no, but that's really, I mean, but what are the chances that we would read that article now? Like a couple of days before the timing in the year that they happen to be talking about, right? When this memo is happening, that's really crazy timing for us to read that document.
The other document that relates to this that we found previously is where they say, if you can't get your money from Congress, don't worry, because we have an NSA corporation that also provides additional funding. And that was a major WTF moment.
Definitely.
Because we haven't read anything more about it yet, but it looks like NSA actually does have a secondary funding source and that it's a private funding source.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, how many people do you think are aware of that or have looked at it critically?
I'd certainly never, ever in my life heard of NSA Corporation as a separate entity to NSA. Okay, I'll get through the rest of the document. The compilation of the book is a major project. We've done this, due first Monday in February. Budget jargon. As with everything else, it has its own vocabulary. Here are some terms you may hear. Fence. When NSA funding is fenced, it means we can't spend that money until we satisfy certain requirements levied on us by Congress. Fences are associated with congressional direct actions. With or without prejudice. When a cut is taken with prejudice, it means NSA must take the cut from a specified project or program. If a cut is taken without prejudice, we have the option of funding that program or project at the level we requested and taking that cut from elsewhere in the budget. A, not A, appropriated, not authorized. This occurs when the appropriators provide funding, but the authorizers do not give NSA the authority to spend it. Which then makes you wonder about this whole NSA corporation and separate private funding source stuff, because who's authorizing it and who's appropriating it? Who's performing those functions on the private money side?
Exactly.
Hollow authority. This occurs when the authorizers give NSA the authority to spend funds, however, the appropriators haven't handed them over yet. Congressional member of staffer. The member is the senator or congressman. The staffer is just that, one of his staff. The staffers are led by a staff director. Sensitive classified information is sometimes shared only with the staff director and members of Congress, not with the staffers, to limit distribution as much as possible. Unless you're Hillary Clinton, in which case you give it all to Homer Aberdeen, who stores it on Anthony Weiner's computer while he sends dick pics to teenagers all across the US.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you think that those definitions were useful? I always want to hoard the definitions that the NSA gives us, but I don't know that those were particularly revelatory, unless you think they are.
I don't think so, personally.
Yeah, usually
it's pretty standard terminology.
I mean, yeah, like congressman and staffer, absolutely. But yeah, usually I want to take note of every single definition they give us, but these weren't particularly new information, so.
Okay, and then the next document is just a one paragraph saying that they're heading off to the UK for another meeting, so I'll skip that. 2005, when did Bill Binney resign?
I believe that it was 2001 in October. It was right after September 11. It was literally like a month after.
Okay, the reason I ask when Binney resigned is because the next document is a discussion with the technical director of SIGDEV, the development unit, development strategy and government. So this, I'm pretty sure that was Bill Binney's position. So this, in theory, would have been a discussion with his replacement.
Wow. That is incredible. I think that's noteworthy. At least like a one-line note.
Totally. Okay, SIGINT Development Strategy and Governance is pleased to announce a brown bag, which I found out, thanks to our amazing viewers, is a lunch bag discussion where you actually take your own lunch. focused on SIGINT development topics of interest. We believe these sessions will be of interest to those who are working in SIGINT development or interested in learning more about those activities. Mr. Gregory Wessel, there you go. Find out if Gregory Wessel was Benny's replacement.
I'll look that up right now. And if anybody else just already knows, then feel free to throw that into chat.
Single sign-on and federated query. This is the NSA equivalent of open authentication. So what it means is that they can log into Interlink and all of the other NSA stuff with a single sign-on.
And so the name was Gregory Wessel, is that correct?
Wessel, yeah, W-E-S-S-E-L. Okay, I don't see anything else there. The single sign-on stuff isn't particularly significant. Now we've got more about Raoul's famous PDF article, which is the one where he very controversially told the NSA that all Osama bin Laden would have to do to avoid capture is to use PDFs.
That was incredible when we read that document.
And they're trying to debunk it by the looks of it.
Yeah, I'm betting that the NSA was not happy when that was said. I bet that they were very, very much not wanting to have that type of vulnerability widely known, even in their own employees' community.
Well, if you remember, there was that follow-up document from him where he actually said, like, wowee, the response that I've got into my, and he specifically quoted his claim about Osama bin Laden. And he said that other NSA employees had said, well, we do have a process for this, but he said, well, if it takes months and has to go through 3 different offices and however many different people and use however many different programs, then it's no freaking good to us. If an analyst can't use it on the day that they find the file, then, you know, we're not going to catch Osama 3 months later, you know, or whatever. So they're just saying that there are ways, in fact, to fix broken PDF files. I'd love to. I wonder where that Raoul guy has actually got to. It would be amazing to interview him.
Yeah, no, he sounded like a legitimately kind of honest person, which is a big compliment in the type of documents that we've been reading.
I think one of our viewers was like, he's like autism spectrum geek, like hard, because he's like obviously got the most technical chops of anyone there, which is why he was writing these articles in the first place. But as you say, he was a little bit too honest in them.
Well, he wasn't part of the group
price.
And the propaganda. He wasn't operating on that train of thought, sort of. And I really liked reading his stuff, actually. You know, he had a good sense of humor too.
He did seem to be very much like, you know, in a back office in a little rabbit warren somewhere within the NSA, but he was the go-to guy for these complex issues that none of the analysts could have solved themselves in a million years. And that's why he's writing these little help files for them on how they can do different stuff. But, well, he broke the cardinal rule, right, which is that he talked about a deficiency at NSA.
Exactly.
And in the management line. Right, and in that document that we studied about the manager talking about the ways to be successful and become a senior manager at NSA were to be amnesiac, to have amnesia about any faults of the NSA. So Raoul did the opposite. Raoul exposed the NSA internally as having faults, and that put him up shit creek by the looks of things.
Definitely. I wonder how much long after that incident he lasted at the NSA.
That's why I'd love to interview him. I think it'd be quite brilliant. Okay. I'm running out of battery and we've already been going for over an hour. So we'll do like 4 more documents. That'll take us to 20 and then that'll be really good progress for tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. good old Raul.
It
would be so awesome to be able to track him down.
Yeah, if Raul is listening, please contact us.
Please contact us. That would be great. Okay, top secret intelligence. SCS site foils ambush on coalition convoy, receives praise from task force commander. So I think that this is more Iraq stuff that is probably in the intercept reporting, because the intercept reporting was largely focused on the Iraq documents in this batch.
Definitely.
I'm just scanning it to see if there's anything that's of particular significance to us. And I mean, the thing you got to understand too is while they write these documents that are like, look, we did wonderful things because with our SIGINT, what you don't see is like, I mean, they're specifically talking about Mosul here. There was a huge piece recently about two brothers that lived in houses next door to each other in Mosul. Very nice houses, like what we would consider in New Zealand to be like little mansions, in fact, like swimming pools and multi-story and like big spacious properties. And each brother had a house and their wives and their children and everyone living there, the residential homes. And the US had decided that because one of the brother was watching car videos on YouTube all the time, like racing car videos, that he was using lots of electricity in his house, that he was probably manufacturing illegal vehicles and doing so on behalf of the insurgents. So he was like a mechanical engineer for the insurgents. And so they bombed his house, completely flattened it. And then they bombed the other house, the brother's house as well. And one of the brothers lived, one of the brothers died. The other wife died, or the brother who survived, his wife died. The wife survived, but not the brother in the other house. And so you ended up with these two broken families with everything destroyed. And he actually went back years later and was picking through the rubble to try and see if there was anything left. And this was significant because they lost the kid. I think one of the kids survived and the rest died. Of the like 4 or 5 kids collectively died. And it was significant because he had taken his case. He tried to go after the US government for compensation. Yeah. He'd proven that he wasn't an insurgent. He had no ties to the insurgents or anything. And he had tried to sue. He tried to go through the NGOs and everything. And after years and years and years of court battles, they finally called him into the US headquarters in Mosul. And I think it was $30,000. They offered him $30,000 or something for having lost his home, his brother, his children, his wife. It was some incredibly insulting amount of money, and he actually threw it back at them and said, "I'm not taking a dollar of this. How disgusting that, after years of fighting for justice, that this is what you throw at me."
Despicable.
It was a horror story, and it's interesting because I remember very clearly the invasion of Iraq, and I remember very clearly the type of language that we were hearing on CNN. And it was targeted precision strikes, limited casualties, limited civilian casualties, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you just see, like, time and time again that signals intelligence was involved in these destroying entire families, and communities and everything. But then what you'll hear in the NSA documents is, we did an amazing job because we prevented this incident with our signals intelligence. What you never, ever, ever hear in one of these documents is, today we killed some guy's brother and his wife and his kids because we thought that he was a mechanic and manufacturing vehicles, when it turns out that he just liked watching Formula One on YouTube. You never, ever, ever hear that in the NSA documents. So instead you hear, We provided intelligence that resulted in the capture of high-ranking individuals. And you hear, we captured 11 insurgent spotters and attackers associated with the would-be ambush. But God knows, they could have been students, they could have been anything. There's absolutely nothing to even verify that they were, in fact, insurgent spotters or, you know, plotting an ambush.
Yeah, the scale of the horror there is unbelievable and unimaginable.
Once again, it's totally propagandistic. Like, we save the lives of soldiers, top secret.
Yeah.
But you never hear about the lives that they cost. And there was a lot of them. A lot of them. Okay, do you want to read through this one? I kind of maxed myself out, I think, on that.
So this one's titled The Language Center Chiefs, Developing Language Analysts for the Future. And this is from the South Asian Language Center Chief. And looks like they're mostly unclassified paragraphs, and it starts, in response to world events, including 9/11, and to operational demands, NSA has greatly increased hiring of language analysts in recent years, which has reinvigorated the old language intern program, now the language development program. A most important step was the appointment of 6 permanent full-time language center chiefs in late March 2003. The Language Center Chiefs, who are part of SID Analysis and Production's deployment services, play an important role in the careers of all members of the language development program, both new hires and experienced language analysts who have taken on the challenge of cross-training into a new language. All of the Language Center Chiefs are language analysts by trade, and they bring with them a wealth of experience at headquarters, downtown, and overseas. The duties of the Language Center Chiefs include managing the development and deployment of new hires and cross-trainees, ensuring a logical sequence of tours suited to individual skills and interests, working closely with a large number of language skill community elements, such as the Senior Language Authority, the Language Analysis Skill Community Director, the Development Program Manager, language advisors, language sponsors, language training representatives, language hiring managers, et cetera, and the Language Enhancement Program. Cooperating in addition with the Deployment Services Language Account Manager, Product Line Account Managers, and Language Recruitment staff, and providing a bridge between the language skill community and the product lines, striving to balance development needs and mission priorities. Then it continues, the Language Development Program is the first part of a career-long professional health program for language analysts. The center chiefs see their job as a payback to the skill community, and they work continually to develop new opportunities for the program members. In turn, the program members often craft their own tours and come up with creative approaches to this stage of their careers. Among our newest tours are our exceptional tours to RSOCs, second parties, field sites, and downtown agencies. What is a typical day like for a language center chief? Well, a typical day probably doesn't exist, but it would include a one-on-one meeting with center members, coordinating rotations with office and language sponsors, talking with the program manager, attending an awards ceremony, reviewing resumes and P3s, and responding to questions of all sorts, from soup to nuts, via email or phone. We have some additional duties, including liaison with SCS, heading the CLA's Outreach in Language Education program, and coordinating the summer language program for college students. We will also be involved in 2005, the Year of Languages, which is being celebrated through the US under the auspices of the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. I think that's interesting. This is an opportunity to focus attention on the benefits of studying other languages and cultures. For the Language Center Chiefs, the opportunity to make a difference in the daily life and in the long-term careers of our many highly talented language analysts, soon to be the agency's technical leaders, is what guides us. What is our one goal? It is laying a strong foundation for building a highly skilled, multi-talented language analysis workforce of the future. For further information about blah, 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 go to for information about this. Okay. I think that's interesting because, again, and we talked about this, I think, in the end of batch 3 about the interaction between colleges, college students, and the NSA. And also think tanks and NGOs. But yeah, that the interaction there, again, between the NSA and colleges is, I think, important and very interesting. And specifically that, you know, if you're in a language, if you're emphasizing languages in your degree, you may not realize at first that that's a career path that will lead you towards an NSA program or an NSA job opportunity. But it definitely is the way that the NSA is describing that type of emphasis.
I think that you've completely nailed it. It looks like this is yet another, if not NGO, then a government board or government body that is acting as a recruitment channel for the NSA.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important part of this entire document. I think it's basically the only noteworthy point that I saw.
Just to give some context to the viewers that haven't been here with us for previous episodes, we have, as well as finding that the NSA lays behind NGOs and government bodies to try to use them as recruiting tools to the NSA. More broadly, this document shows the NSA's total and utter obsession with linguistics and language analysis. Definitely. So of the 14,000 strong workforce of the NSA, they had something like 7,000 linguists.
It was a lot. It was the biggest proportion of any of the workforce.
Exactly. And yet they had something like 10 defensive server admins, network admins. So that just shows you where their focus is. Their focus is on translating information from countries all around the world, not on protecting the networks in which they have all of this information that these linguists produce.
And they obviously, because of their focus on recruitment in that area, they obviously feel like they don't have enough at that time. So that means, and I think that suggests that obviously they're increasing the amount of information that they're collecting and needing to translate. And that's why there's this rush to recruit as many people as possible.
Featherlight saying that they're a language person, but they never tried to recruit her. I think that you don't necessarily know that they're wanting to recruit you.
Exactly.
So it could be that you get offered a scholarship, or that someone suggests that maybe you should, because you speak Persian or Farsi, perhaps you would be interested in Pashto or something like this. So very much so. I mean, it's so insidious that we even found that a high school essay competition.
High school, or was it college level?
I think it says students. It may have been either high school or college or both, but they had an NGO hold an essay competition on where students, what their vision of the future of the world will be in 2020, and they were then taking the information from the, and offering prizes to the winners of the winning students, then taking that information and incorporating it into the NSA's future planning, their strategic planning for 2020. So something as simple as, this is an example of where you can be serving the NSA without even knowing that you're serving the NSA. Your kid says, oh, I'm entering an essay competition, a futuristic essay competition of what I think the world will be like in 2020. Would you think that your child is writing information that can end up in the NSA strategic planning document? Yeah. No, you would.
Thing comes into your head, the NSA.
Exactly. You would never, ever, ever know that your child was contributing to the strategic planning documentation of the NSA. So this is what I mean by how insidious it is. So you can serve them, you can work for them without even realizing you're working for them. You could just think you're entering some competition, and isn't it great? I won $250 in this essay contest. In the meantime, your ideas, your intellectual property, is being used by intelligence agencies.
And I think too, like when you're a college student, I think there's this idea of academia as unaffected, or sort of like the press, like it's supposed to be separate from these government structures, or like intelligence community groups, that type of thing. But to see this level of involvement in the academic structure, it also brings up to me the problem of the NSA and the IC kind of influencing curriculum in a larger sense, and because it's showing those blurred lines, and I think that's extremely disturbing as a separate rant, but I think it's probably a major problem. So.
Okay, the next document looks particularly interesting because it's the first time that I've seen India as the target.
Okay, interesting.
India is, of course, supposed to be a US ally, a very strong US ally. But in fact, it looks like the NSA's foreign satellite division was, in fact, targeting India. S3 branch in a field facility achieved breakthrough on Indian net, and this is a Five Eyes document. Top secret, one recent success against India's nuclear weapons development program exemplifies the agency's new environment of cross-program collaboration in satisfying intelligence needs. In October 2004, Rainfall successfully geolocated signals of a suspected Indian nuclear weapons storage facility. This prompted a foreign satellite collection facility, Lemonwood, and the Unidentified Signal and Protocol Analysis Branch at NSA to collaborate in isolating these signals and, through signals development, confirm their content as related to Indian nuclear weapons. This breakthrough highlighted the need to deploy additional demodulating equipment in order to expand a modest collection effort undertaken since the signal was discovered. Immediately after fielding this equipment, collection of this new network began to provide what is being called spectacular activity. Exploitation of that collection revealed something: India's first ever Sagarika submarine launched ballistic missile launch, sea-launched short-range ballistic missile, and something, a pilotless target aircraft. So essentially a drone. Collection from this new access has also provided significant intelligence on India's possession of two different types of airdrop bombs, one believed to be a very large fuel air explosive bomb of an unidentified type. The other, not yet confirmed by the analytic community, may be a new generation of airdrop nuclear weapons. Lemonwood has sustained access to something satellite communication links, and then it won't tell us what they are. The FAWNSAT division is working with the site and the TransAsia product line to expand collection against this high priority network. While the collection that resulted from interagency collaboration has been categorized as spectacular, what is most impressive is the growing trend of collaboration seen across the entire agency. What were once technological challenges are now collaboration opportunities that offer the promise of seamless, interoperable, and responsive national security agency. I'd be very surprised if Intercept didn't report on that. We will have to go and check.
That was my first thought, is that this seems very much part of the geographical focus that they would have had.
They do also have a specific focus on anything that's related to nuclear weapons. They tend to report on that. Okay, last one. Inside the customer's decision space. Now that sounds very promising.
Very much.
Customers, the NSA customers, is something we are increasingly focusing on as much as possible.
Definitely.
Yet another success story with the global war on terrorism, which in aggregate is a total failure and not at all a success story. In early 2003, NSA CSS Europe and the Geospatial Exploitation and Counterterrorism product lines initiated a forward production effort to support our national goals and strategy in North Africa. Among those goals was to enable African governments to police their own borders, sustain or enhance stability. I bet there's certain African governments that suits them, and make it clear that their countries are an environment hostile to terrorist organizations and their supporters, even though several of those African governments are in fact terrorist governments. This small investment of 5 to 6 analysts has provided a significant return. Forward production and headquarters and analysts were able to report the predicted movement of terrorists operating in Mali, Niger, and Algeria. Niger being one of the West African, not North African countries, in which the US was stationing troops as far back as these documents to secure the oil reserves for US and US allies. EUCOM senior staff and US ambassadors in this region used this information to engage and enable regional governments to conduct successful counterterrorism operations. Intelligence generated has been responsible for the capture or kill of over 40 terrorists and has helped achieve the global war on terrorism and regional policy successes in Africa. While based on the skills of the forward deployed analysts as supported by NSA HQ, two overarching factors. So for them to be forward deployed, where are they forward deployed? Are they forward deployed to EUCOM?
It's a good question.
Or are they forward deployed to Mali, Nigeria, and Algeria? It would make more sense for them to be in EUCOM. The factors of success are co-location with the primary regional implementer or action arm of the US government. So they're in the embassies. That answers that question. As well as supporting elements and an aggressive effort to release SIGINT to foreign governments supporting truly non-traditional customers.
Nice.
Ha!
EG, governments in Algeria, Mali, and Mauritania. How do you pronounce that? Mauritania? Is that right? very, very noteworthy because of the fact that it's talking about more customers that are, quote, non-traditional and naming them.
That is very significant.
Definitely.
Forward Production's effectiveness is based on co-location and integration with operational planners and teaming with all source customers and partners. This allows analysts to better anticipate requirements, blah, 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 provide better products, operate in the customer's decision cycle, and better understand their needs. Customer information needs is the correct terminology. It's about relating, not disseminating. Really. And NCEUR forward deployed analysts as expeditionary force inside a customer's information space are better enabling CT operations and reaching analytic conclusions not otherwise possible. The forward production cell at NCEUR is serving as a model for operational partnering and analytic collaboration within the customer's environment, which means they're probably exploiting the customers as well as serving them.
Absolutely.
This forward production model will be implemented on an industrial scale. Oh, great. When the European Security Centre in Darmstadt, Germany, becomes fully operational. So this means that Germany is the leap pad, not just to the Middle East, but also to Africa.
Very important point, yeah.
The ESC, or European Security Centre, is the realization of a significant investment by US Army Europe and Intelligence and Security Command to perform SIGINT analysis and production against national theatre and tactical requirements within the customer domain.
Wow.
Extended enterprise and HQ communities of the GeoCT regional targets and Middle East North Africa product lines collaborated on this target. Okay. That, I think, is the most significant finding there.
Definitely.
And I will just add that to my notes along with this document.
Awesome.
Okay, all you awesome people who are in chat, if you have any questions for us, now would be the time because we're going to wrap this up very shortly.
I think we've had a really productive stream today. I think we got through a lot of documents and we also found some really interesting material. I'm just checking chat really fast.
Yeah, African governments being on the customer list of the NSA, I think, is very significant.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we found some really interesting factual information, and we also saw that really interesting document as far as the culture of the NSA in 2005 regarding Iraq, and very, very interesting stuff for sure. I like Hope Kesselring wrote "The Graveyard of Empires." I like that phrase. Yeah, and somebody mentioned the Clinton Foundation. There's definitely a lot of issues with that for sure. It's a huge topic of investigation for any independent journalist. Absolutely. Somebody in chat is mentioning a system to poison the homeless involving clergy response teams trained by FEMA. I don't know if this was in relation to anything we were reading about or if they have a link about that, but
that's outside of my experience. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know how that relates to what we're looking at, but and then Romola said it was very interesting info on the linguists and info collection, probably connected to the worldwide collection of data for AI, etc. And I think one point is that although AI is obviously going to replace a whole lot of jobs in the next decades, but I think at the point that we're seeing in the documents, and probably to an extent now, there's a situation where I think they would want actual human beings translating in addition to AI translation. That's just my opinion.
So we did find from one of the documents that they were machine translating Arabic.
True. Yes.
Which in the context of the kill chain is just freaking scary.
Exactly, because of the potential.
Scary.
Incorrect translation is huge, and the implications of an incorrect translation could be literally, life or death.
It's one thing for them to judge you on what you say. It's another thing for them to judge you on what a machine thinks you said.
Exactly. And anyone who's tried to use Google Translate or something like that knows it's very spotty at best. So
a machine will never be able to understand context and implication in the way that hopefully a human being can. I mean, human beings, I'm sure these linguists make mistakes every single day. It would be impossible to believe that they don't.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, any questions for us? Because I'm really looking forward to getting some sleep.
Romola, thank you for joining us. It's really
that's super cool.
I'm really, really appreciative that you've watched this whole segment. So thank you. And then also thank you to everybody who's new or, has been here only a couple of times. It's so awesome to see people, new people joining us and some newer people coming back after joining us like a stream or two ago. So thank you everyone that's here. And
I would say the retention rate for this program is very impressive. Like generally speaking, once someone joins, we see them over and over and over again. So I appreciate that, guys. I appreciate that you care about this stuff. I know someone said to me recent weeks, it's not glamorous like what you're doing. It's not at all glamorous sitting here and pouring through highly technical corporate style documents, but it's really important. It's unique and it's important. So thank you for supporting us. It's really, really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have like the graphics and the introduction that's like all fancy and wonderful, but the people that are here are really looking at the content of what we're doing as opposed to being drawn in by flashy graphics and stuff. And I think that's great. I think it's fantastic that so many people understand the importance of what we're doing. So definitely.
Yeah, I agree. It is juicy for the light. Sometimes you got to wait and wade through a few documents, but I agree that the stuff that we find is just mind-blowingly awesome. Like there's things that we've just never. I mean, I've read everything on this topic that I can get my hands on, and I've still not read or been told or found the types of information that we have done here. So it's pretty amazing. And Jenny Lynn says we don't need no fancy smash. Well, you definitely don't have that. You have me and my courage t-shirt and
I have a WikiLeaks mug somewhere and that,
That's about it. Cool. And I'd just like to say that my hairstyle today, which you can't really see properly, is inspired by Elizabeth.
Well, we're just lucky I didn't wear that as well, so we'd be twins. You got to do that sometime. I think it looks great. Well, when you have really long hair, that's one of the go-to things to do with it. So definitely.
Cool. Okay, guys, we are going to log out and go to bed. Thank you so much for being here and for joining us. Thank you for all your tweets and promoting the stream. And hi, Romola, really cool to have you here. It's been great.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. You're awesome. And I hope to see you again on Tuesday.
Night, guys. See you Tuesday.